What's going on, everybody? It's the Indoor Hunter, and today we're gonna be doing a little bit of different stuff. We're not hunting anything. We're gonna be making a tier list on the best weapons in the game. Now, I know we did a video very similar to this kind of recently, but this is more encompassing all the weapons compared to each other instead of just per class. So without further ado, this is going to be a fairly long video. Let's get started. Alright, so here's our tier list. Now, before we get started, I would like to make a disclaimer and just point out the fact that every single weapon in the Hunter Call of the Wild is definitely usable. You can take game down with it. That being said, some of them are obviously easier to use than others, and that's where this tier system is really coming into play. So if you see one of your favorite weapons very low on the list, just keep in mind this is my opinion. This isn't, I'm not trying to really force any sort of opinion on you guys. I'm just curious, honestly, about what you guys think, and hopefully you guys are curious about what I think. So before we go too deep in the woods here, let's get started. The Zarza 22. I'm going to go ahead and put this in A tier just because it is semi-automatic. It's integrally suppressed. It's an AR platform. Honestly, the recoil pattern, in my opinion, is far superior to the Virant. But the thing that holds it back is it's only got 5 rounds in the magazine. And, well, when you're trying to plug rounds at birds flying 200 meters away, that can become a problem. So it's solid A tier gun. I like using it every once in a while just because it's there. It's a good gun. Not as good as the Virant, but it's pretty awesome. The 357 Magnum. We're going to go with B tier on this gun here. It's not inherently a bad gun, and it did get better with the speed loader update. That said, the 357 is a little weak when compared to other calibers. There's far better choices to use, but as a starter weapon, it's not terrible. Speaking of terrible, our first F-class weapon, the 410/45 Long Colt pistol. This gun's trash. It's garbage. The 45 Long Colt caliber itself in game isn't very good, and honestly, neither is the 410. I've killed a lot of stuff with it, just kind of as a meme run through. It's just a bad gun. It's not very good. Maybe some reworks or something. The only benefit it does over the other 45 Long Colt pistol is the fact that you can actually put a pistol scope on here, but that really doesn't save it. There's far better choices. It's all in all just not a good gun. Moving right along, we've got Longbow. That's going to go in the A tier. Bows in general are very good. They're incredibly powerful even if you don't have any perks. The longbows, obviously, they take some practice to use, and some of you may put this in the S tier because, you know, if you got enough practice with it, you can be pretty lethal with a longbow. I'm not that lethal with them. They're definitely a good weapon. We're going to stick them in the A class. The King ZBD, man, this is our first C gun, and I'll tell you why. Yes, it's incredibly powerful. Yes, it can one-shot kill, you know, buffalo, but the range on it is absolutely horrific. The zeroing is just bad. The bullet drop is gross. The ammunition's insanely expensive for this gun. But when you use it kind of like it's a bow and you get in real close and personal, it can be fun to use, especially when you're going up against buffaloes or really any big class 9 animals. But it's a solid C gun. Maybe some improvements in the future, perhaps it could get better, but right now it's a C. It's a fun gun to use. It's a meme gun, but it's just not very good. It's not your first choice. CB60. So I'm actually going to include all of the CB60. I'm actually going to include all of the compound bows with this. It's an absolutely S tier class. Once you're proficient enough with it, I mean, this thing will one-shot literally every single animal in the game, regardless of what arrow tech you use. So it's very lethal. Has insane power. Love it. Love all the bows. I honestly do. My favorite personally is the Coder 65. Just because it is a DLC bow and like you don't see too many people using it. I really don't see that much of a difference between the recurves. It's kind of user preference. But yeah, compound bows, S tier. Crossbow, however, that's another F tier weapon. That absolutely needs a rework. It has nowhere near the range or power that the compound bows do, and that's just complete nonsense. The optic is absolute trash for this. Not very good. They absolutely need to rework that. That's one of those we should put that in the suggestions for them to look at, is the crossbows, because boy, they're bad. They're just not good at all. The new 338, the Solurgi, or I don't know how to pronounce it, folks. It's some Russian type word, and I don't know what it says, but I'm going to actually place this in B tier. And the reason is 338 is kind of another one of those weapons like the crossbow that really needs to be reworked, because on paper it should be much more powerful than the 300, and it's not. It doesn't perform as well. The bullet velocity on it's so bad that you can't hit targets if they're just walking. I'm really not a fan of 338. It's another one of those rounds that's super expensive. Again, as a starter weapon that you can get, it's pretty bad. Now, if you don't have any DLC, but because we're comparing this to DLC, it's sitting at B class. If this was a non-DLC list, this would actually probably appear in A tier, but that 300, man, the 338 cannot compete. Even with 5 rounds in the magazine, cannot compete. Got the 16 gauge. I'm going to put this at B because 16 gauge, it's a good shotgun, but it is a little weak when you compare it to the 12 gauge. Now, I do like the iron sights on this, and you do get a high magazine capacity. So for like rabbit hunting and stuff like that, it's perfectly fine. But for bigger bird species, the 10mm auto, that's an A-class handgun right there. It's actually pretty powerful. I don't use it enough. I need to use it more. 10 rounds in magazine, semi-automatic with that type of firepower is pretty impressive. That's a gun that definitely obviously takes practice because it doesn't have an optic outside of the red dot sight, and so you gotta get used to that bullet drop a little bit. Once you do, you can drop bodies. I've seen Ricks do it plenty of times. It's a good gun. I personally need a little bit more practice out of it, but it's a solid A gun. The Hudzik 50. This is going in the S tier class, and the reason being is because there is another muzzleloader in the game, and this one is 100% the best one. And honestly, just as far as firearms go in general in this game, this thing knocks it out of the park. Sure, you're limited to one shot. It's a slow reload. That being said, if you make a good hit, that animal is going down, because that is an incredibly powerful round going down range. It actually has a really good range. It can shoot well past 300 meters, no problem. A little bit of practice. The scope is not the best for that gun, but man, I love the Hudzik. I can hunt around all day on a map with that gun. It's just so much fun to use, and it's powerful. It's really, really good. The 7mm Malmar, that's absolutely going S tier. In my personal opinion, this is the best rifle in the game, period. Obviously for that class of animal, it's, you know, if you get the class 9, the 7mm is not the best, but because it can take class 9, that immediately puts it in the S tier class. It's got 3 rounds, bolt action, very good guns, accurate, hands down my favorite gun in the game. Speaking of the 7mm, the drilling rifle, we're going to put this guy solid A. Some of you may frown at that. That could be considered an S tier. It's actually an incredibly powerful round that it shoots. You do have a shotgun obviously attached to it, which makes it a unique weapon. It's useful because you can actually combine kind of loadouts into that. You've got a class 1 and class 7 or 4 through 9 loadout with just one firearm, so that's pretty cool. But it is just single shot, so it takes it down just a peg because there are better weapons than that. It's a really, really good gun. That's one of those, if there was like a class after S, we could kind of like put that right in the middle is where that would be, because it's a good gun. The 20 gauge, that one, I don't know. The 20 gauge for me kind of could go in the C class as well. The fact that it's semi-automatic is cool, but the fact that the 20 gauge is a little underwhelming in the game, meaning, like, you know, if you take that gun goose hunting, you're gonna have a really bad time. That's not a goose gun. Flip side, if you do really small game like rabbits and you know, ptarmigan and stuff, it's okay. But 3 rounds, is really, really limiting. I'm gonna stick it in B. It's not the worst gun in the world, but it's not the best either. 243 pistol. This is another one of those that I personally don't use that much, but it is incredibly useful. Again, having the ability to limit your loadout to, you know, certain things is pretty nice, and not having to have a 243 rifle pretty nice. And the 243 caliber itself is absolutely S tier, and we'll get to that when we get to the actual 243 rifle. But the pistol wise, again, I'm not personally using it a whole lot. I've seen a lot of folks out there using it, but it's definitely a solid A gun. The recurves, another A class. Again, enough practice, you can, you know, get really proficient with it. That said, the new recurve that just came out, that weighs only 2 pounds and you can attach a bow sight to, again, that's another one of those weapons that hovers in between S class and A class, because you can kind of replace that compound with the recurve and get about the same results, honestly, with that sight. It just weighs 4 pounds less, so it's pretty nifty. The new 10 gauge, this gun's going into C. Here's the deal with this gun. The 10 gauge, I want to love it. I want it to be my favorite gun. It looks amazing, sounds amazing. The bullet velocity on it is absolutely terrible. I think I've made a video on that in the past. If not, I need to, kind of showcasing what I'm talking about with that. You've got to lead animals so much that it makes it almost impossible to use for waterfowl hunting. When it comes to ground game, it's okay-ish, but I expected it to be better than it is. It shoots slow. That range is there. It's just not fast enough, if that makes sense. Again, the bullet velocity, when you pull the trigger, the pellets take so long that you miss 90% of your shots. Maybe it's a skill issue, maybe it's something I need to practice with, but that gun, it's much harder to use than any of the other shotguns. I want to love it. It's semi-automatic, it's 10 gauge, just not the best. Something I haven't tried with this gun though is use slugs and use it as a hunting rifle for class 9 animals. Maybe in the future we can do that. The Inline 50, boy, I want to put that in the F class, but it's not that bad, even though it's pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie, folks, it's pretty bad in my opinion. That's another gun that I've really tried to like and love and enjoy, and I just can't get results out of it. It's cool that you can put modern optics on there, but it's not as powerful as the Hudsik, and the range isn't as good as the Hudsik, and the power just doesn't seem like it's there when you compare it to the Hudsik. Maybe some of you guys might disagree with me on that. I personally don't like it. 30-06, the Eckers, the Lord's caliber here. This is the Eckers. We're going to put it in A class. It's a solid rifle. It's excellent. That 30-06 caliber is excellent for classes 4 through 8. It's probably the best for classes 4 through 8. It's far more powerful than the 7mm. You just can't kill class 9 animals with it. The Eckers itself is a great gun, fun gun, looks beautiful. Yeah, it's a solid gun. All right, we got the 223 Docent. Man, I feel bad for putting this in the B tier because, truth be told, 223 is a very good caliber for class 2 animal, but the bolt action, it's going in the B. It's a little weak against bigger animals like class 3 and class 4. It's accurate. I don't really have a problem with the gun. It's a fun gun to use because it's one of those that's, you know, comes with the game and you just don't see a lot of people using it, but when in comparison to the other guns, it's a little mediocre. The Ranger 338, we're gonna go ahead and put this in the C tier because we talked about the 338 earlier, just how bad it is compared to 300, and the fact that this is single shot really limits this gun. The air rifle, we're gonna go ahead and put this in B class. This is one of those, if you were proficient enough, had enough practice and time with the weapon, you could argue that it's actually an S tier gun because it makes no sound. Obviously, it's got 5 rounds. It has a very quick repeatable shot. I mean, you can pull the trigger pretty fast on this thing, and honestly, when those animals are in with range, it's pretty heckin' powerful too. This thing will smoke whitetail like it's nobody. Class 4 animals, this gun will just nuke them. Problem is the range is pretty low on it, and so it's more like hunting with a bow. It's a fun gun to use. I like it, But all in all, there's obviously better choices. It's a B. Like the bullet itself, damage-wise, is S tier. The weapon is B tier. 300 mag, instant S tier, no questions asked. We've talked about that. It's far superior to 338. It's just excellent. It's the best big game rifle in the game, period. Well, that said, until they introduced, of course, the new 300, but we've not been there yet. But it's absolutely S tier class weapon. The Maradi. Now, some of you I may offend with this, but we're going to slap that bad boy in the B tier. 44 Magnum is obviously an S tier. 44 Magnum is obviously an S tier caliber. That being said, the Maradi itself, the range and bullet velocity and stuff like that just isn't quite there. It's hard to use. It's a hard gun to use. You've really got to practice with that gun in order to be proficient with it. That said, if you are proficient with it, some of you, I've seen you guys, it's an S tier gun. I mean, I've had moments where it's an S tier gun, but I've also had moments where it's an F tier gun. So we're going to put it in the middle here and at B, depending on what your use level is on there. I'm sure that's where, you guys may change that, but I'm going to keep it pretty much, be super honest with myself, because I really do love this gun. It's a fun gun to use, but it's a B class weapon. 270. This is another B class weapon that's kind of shameful. I don't really use it a whole lot, but that's because there's things that are so much better. Obviously, if you don't have the 7mm or any other DLC, 270 is going to work better than the 243, but the second you have that 7mm, this gun becomes obsolete. Really, this is the one gun in the game that you could consider just completely obsolete. There's no point to use it outside of just using it, because it really underperforms when compared to everything else. And outside of that, I mean, accuracy wise and ballistics, it's excellent, but power wise, it's just not there. It's a B tier weapon. Some of you may argue with me in that it's really underpowered in comparison to its real life counterpart. They need to rework that or tweak that just a little bit. And then speaking of the 270, 303 is actually an S tier weapon. 303 is one of the better calibers. It's actually, in my opinion, better than 7mm. Unfortunately, however, it's not a class 9 weapon. That said, it has the exact same trajectory or bullet velocity and accuracy as a 7mm, meaning for a run-and gunner, this is an excellent gun. It shoots fast, you can throw that bolt super quick, it's accurate, it hits hard. In that range on the move, you can really hit stuff, and it's, like I said, for a run-and gunner, that gun's your best friend. The Gandai rifle. We're gonna be honest with this and put this in the A tier. It is a single shot weapon, but boy howdy is this new rifle powerful, guys. If you've not used it yet or not seen it used, it is insane what you can do with this gun. It's iron sights only, and it's a single shot, but when you compare it to the single shot 7mm, this gun's actually a lot better than the 7mm single shot. Outside of the fact that you can't put an optic on it, I do, however, these are my favorite iron sights in the game. They did a beautiful job. It's one of those guns, the more practice I have with it, maybe I would change it up to S tier. 45 Colt. Do we put it in C class for the cool factor? Or do we put it in F class? Because honestly, the caliber of that gun is just trash. It's garbage. It's a meme gun. I guess if you wanted to role play, it's fine. But for me, it's going to the F class. 300 tactical mag. We talked about 300. The fact that it's got 5 rounds, it's semi-automatic. It makes it honestly the best big game gun in the game. And truthfully, once you get to a certain point where money doesn't really matter anymore, it becomes the best rifle in the game, period, because you can just take everything that you see out with it. Obviously not ethical, but that gun is incredible, sounds good, looks good, feels good. The 7mm single shot, it's an A tier gun. It's what gets everybody out of the trenches and into the game, really, when it comes to Hunter Call of the Wild. Once you unlock that gun, you're kind of free to go and do what you want to do. Excellent gun, love it. It is single shot, so we're not putting it up here in S tier. Caliber, S tier. The 7mm Malware blows this thing out of the water. But this gun does look good, performs well. I love it. It's an A class gun. The 12 gauge. S tier. And the reason being, it's the best shotgun in the game, in my opinion. It's better than all the other pump actions. The ammo's cheap for it. It hits hard. has a good range. I love this for waterfowl hunting. Excellent shotgun. 22 Virant, that's another S-class weapon. I don't know how many times I've said it on the channel now where this gun is the most useful tool in the game, period. Whether you're shooting small game with it, you know, ducks that are out on the water, ducks that are flying. If you need to get an animal's attention, you can fire this thing off in the air or near that animal and you can get that animal's attention. You can get them to turn around. Incredibly powerful tool, S tier all day, every day. I don't have a single loadout in this game where I don't carry the 22 Virant. The 4570, it's going F tier. I thought about it for a half second. The 4570, even though they did the rework on it, maybe it's a little more powerful, but the rifle itself is trash. The ammo capacity is terrible. The optic that you use for it's terrible. It can only 0 to like 75 meters, so you just can't do anything with it. It's trash. We're going to get to it. We're going to talk about the 3030. That's honestly same with that gun. The 4570 lever action rifle is trash in my opinion. I don't like it. Again, some of you might. I just don't. There's far better choices out there. 454 Rhino. It's another S tier weapon. You have that gun with you. That's basically a 7mm that's capable of one-shotting anything in the game in your pocket. One of the best guns in the game, if not the best gun in the game. This is one of those, you get proficient enough with it, you're dropping everything like a bad habit. Now here's where it's unique. 4570 pistol is actually, in my opinion, an A tier weapon. It's single shot, it is a pistol, but it only weighs 2 pounds, and you have, like the 454, you kind of have that 7mm, that's a true 7mm package in your pocket. You basically can carry that gun. You could forego the 7mm. It's not as powerful coming out of that package, but it's a decent gun. 243 rifle, it's the S tier. It's the best small game weapon in the game, period. Still to date, the ammo for it for soft points is completely free, meaning if you run out of money, you can still buy ammo to hunt with. And from class 2 to 4, it's excellent. Class 4 animals are going to run a little bit further, but class 2 animals, it's going to instantly kill. You can punch through at long ranges on those, like foxes and stuff like that. Obviously, class 3 animals, it tears apart. It's an excellent, excellent gun. I wish we could get a different platform in 243 so we can, you know, look at something a little bit different. This has been here since day one, but it is an S tier class weapon. The Mosin Nagant, this gun used to be S tier, but now it's kind of B tier. Back in the day, it was a little broken. You could just shoot the crap out of stuff. It's still, oh man, I don't know. Should it be A tier? This is where you guys are gonna have to make some comments down below, because honestly, myself, just the amount of I've used it, I want to say it's a B class weapon. I could see though, if you're trying to use for class 3 animals, the Mosin's very, very good, like goats and stuff like that, but that 243 edges it out. And outside of that, I mean, when you put this weapon with the 243 outshines it. 22 Hornet, that gun's going straight to the garbage pile. That's the worst gun in the game. It's terrible. I guess it's there so you can role play if you own one of these in real life. Outside of that, it's trash. It's capable of killing class 2 animals. I wouldn't try it because it's not very good at it. One thing it's okay at is if you can headshot turkey with it at a range, but it doesn't have the benefits like the other 22s have. You can't alert animals. It's too loud. It's bolt action. The range is just, I don't know. I hate it. For me, I would much rather take this pistol over that 22 Hornet. The Zarza 308, that's obviously going to be an S-class weapon. Now, I've really preferred lately using a lot of different guns because I've just kind of ruined my appetite for that gun from grinding. I've used it so much that I'm tired of looking at it. That said, it's an excellent gun. 308, it hits hard, semi-automatic, good recoil pattern, very, very good gun. 308 bolt action. I know some people that are big fans of this gun. I don't like it that much. Personally, I have no idea why. It's just mid to me. I don't know. It's an A tier gun. I'm not going to discredit it just because I personally don't like it. It's an A class gun for sure. Obviously getting beaten out by its semi-automatic brother. The 22-250, I'm going to put this in the B tier. I think there's something weird, wonky, and broken with this because I've had a lot of diamonds get away because I've used that gun instead of the 243. On paper, it's almost as powerful as the 243, but in reality, it's just there's something wrong there, something weird. I don't know. It's fun, it's fine. I personally, it's a B class weapon to me. I've got a 243. I don't need this gun. 6.5 lightning. I'm putting this in C tier just because it's so weak. I guess if you were pinpoint accurate and could get heart shots with it all day, every day, it'd be great. But in game, you might as well be shooting with a 22. Like, I don't like tracking animals down for kilometers, and that's what you're gonna do with this gun. I know the memes out there in real life, because 6.5 Creedmoor in real life is far better than it is in the game. I know those memes are out there about the 6.5 being weak, but in the game it's too weak. M1, absolute S tier in my opinion. It's actually better than the Zarza. I like it better. I've used it longer. I've got its recoil pattern better memorized, and honestly, it's an M1. I mean, what other gun after 5 rounds goes ping? You know, instantly S tier class weapon. It's incredibly powerful. It's way more powerful than the 308 is. Just people don't like the slightly snappier recoil, but once you have some perks, you can really make that thing shine. The 223 Zarza, that's an A tier weapon. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. We put the 223 elsewhere. It's true, but because this is semi-automatic, it's excellent when you're out there fox hunting or any sort of class 2, man. It's such a good gun. I will use this over the 243 most of the time just because it's so fun to use. If you really need to get work done, though, the job done, use the 243, but that 223 Zarza is pretty awesome. 44 mag, again, the caliber itself is an S tier, but the pistol, it's not very good. It's fine, but if you can use the 454 Rhino, I would, over the 44 mag. Granted, 44 mag, you're capable of taking out smaller stuff. I don't know, that's one of those guns that's user preference. I personally don't like it as much. I mean, I like it, but it's not as good as the other stuff. Last but certainly not least, we've got the 3030. That's another one of those F class, and I can hear you now, some of you guys. I know there's a few of you out there that like the 3030. I do not. That's one of those guns, like, why can't I shoot farther than 20 yards with this? It makes no sense. It's not a bow and arrow, it's a gun. I grew up, actually, you know, fun fact about myself in real life, I actually grew up hunting with a 3030, so I'm a little offended at how terrible it is in this game, because I've seen this gun do things that, well, most guns can do, and this thing, for some reason in this game, is just hot garbage. For me, anyways. You guys may disagree. We've got one weapon that I just realized I didn't put on here, and that is, of course, the Anderson 22 pistol. That's another F tier class weapon. It's kind of fun to break out every once in a while and play with, but at the end of the day, it's garbage. That's kind of it. First time ever doing one of these. Let me in the comments below if you agree, disagree, or what you think. I know we just made a video very, very similar to this, but this is kind of everything all at once. So let me know what you think below. Hope you guys have Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.